The power of silence. In the shadow of the towering Himalayas, nestled like a forgotten jewel in a verdant valley, lay the village of Karu. It was a place where time moved at the pace of the seasons, untouched by the clamor of the modern world. The houses, built from weathered stone and timber, clung to the steep slopes, their roofs capped with slate that gleamed under the first light of dawn. Terraced fields of rice and barley cascaded down the hillsides, a patchwork of green that sustained the few hundred souls who called this home. On a crisp autumn morning, as the sun crested the jagged peaks, the village awoke in a hush. The air was cool and pure, carrying the faint scent of pine and wildflowers. Mist clung to the valleys below, swirling like ethereal spirits rising from the earth. The sky shifted from indigo to a soft pink, painting the snow-capped summits in hues of gold. In this serene tableau, young Arjun stirred in his modest home, the wooden floor creaking under his feet as he stepped outside. The sounds, or rather the absence of them, defined the dawn. No honking horns or buzzing engines disturbed the peace, only the gentle whisper of the wind through the cedar trees, the distant call of a Himalayan monal bird with its iridescent plumage, and the soft gurgle of a mountain stream tumbling over rocks. Occasionally, a cow's low moo echoed from a nearby shed, or the faint clink of a villager's pail as they fetched water. But mostly, it was silence, a profound, enveloping quiet that wrapped around Arjun like a comforting blanket. In this silence, he felt a deep connection to the world, yet it amplified his inner solitude. It made him reflective, sometimes melancholic, as if the mountains were mirrors reflecting his unspoken thoughts back at him. He would stand there, breathing in the crisp air, feeling both invigorated and achingly alone. Arjun was 25, with a lean build honed from years of labor on his family's farm. His dark hair fell in unruly waves over his forehead, and his eyes, the color of rich earth, held a quiet intensity. Each day began before sunrise, tending to the goats, plowing the fields with his father, and helping his mother with chores around the house. In the evenings, he would steal moments to read borrowed books or scribble in a tattered notebook, dreaming of worlds beyond the village. He longed to be a writer, to capture the stories of his people, the legends of ancient gods whispered by elders, the hardships of mountain life, the beauty that outsiders never saw. But dreams like his were rare in Karu. His family, rooted in tradition, expected him to marry soon, take over the farm, and continue the cycle that had sustained them for generations. "Writing won't fill your belly, Arjun," his father would say, his voice gruff but laced with concern. Arjun's siblings had already conformed. His older brother managed a small tea shop down the valley. His sister married into a neighboring village. Arjun felt misunderstood, an outsider in his own home. The villagers admired his hard work, but pitied his fanciful notions. Whispers followed him. Poor boy, chasing shadows when there's real work to be done. This isolation gnawed at him, making him question if his aspirations were foolish. The conflict erupted one fateful afternoon when a letter arrived from the city. Arjun had entered a national writing competition months earlier, pouring his soul into a short story about a young shepherd who defies a storm to save his flock, a metaphor for his own struggles. He had sent it off with trembling hands, hoping it would be his ticket to recognition, perhaps even a scholarship to study literature in Delhi. But the letter was a rejection. While evocative, your submission lacks polish and market appeal. The words stung like a whip. Worse still, that same week, his grandfather, the one person who had believed in him, passed away. Old man Rajan had been Arjun's confidant, sharing tales by the fire and encouraging his writing. "The mountains teach us patience, boy," he'd say. "Your words will find their way." Now, with his grandfather gone, the family pressure intensified. His father insisted he propose to the daughter of a wealthy landowner nearby, securing alliances and land. "It's time to grow up," he barked during a heated argument. Arjun felt the weight of failure crushing him. The rejected story, the loss of his mentor, the suffocating expectations. He stormed out, his heart pounding with anger and despair. Why did everything conspire against him? Was he destined to wither in this village, his dreams buried under layers of duty? Overwhelmed, Arjun fled to the mountains. He climbed a narrow trail that wound up from the village, paced rhododendron thickets and ancient oaks to a secluded ledge overlooking the valley. It was a place he had discovered as a child, a natural alcove shielded by boulders where the world fell away. He sat on a flat rock, his back against the cool stone, and forced himself to be still. No ranting, no tears, just silence. At first, his mind raced, replaying the rejection, the arguments, the hollow ache of loss. But as minutes stretched into hours, the power of silence asserted itself. The wind sighed through the pines, a soft, rhythmic hush that seemed to breathe with him. Birds flitted overhead, their calls piercing yet harmonious, a cuckoo's repetitive coo, the trill of a finch. Below, the stream murmured like a distant conversation, its waters carving patiently through rock. No human voices intruded, no judgments echoed. In this quiet, Arjun's turmoil began to ebb. The silence wasn't empty, it was alive, a canvas where nature painted its lessons. He closed his eyes, feeling the sun warm his skin, the earth steady beneath him. For the first time in days, peace seeped in, like rain soaking parched soil. The silence didn't erase his pain, but it held it gently, allowing him to observe it without being consumed. In that stillness, he found a reservoir of strength he hadn't known existed, a quiet power that whispered, "You are enough." As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, a turning point crystallized in Arjun's mind. The silence had tamed his emotions, transforming raw anger into clarity. He realized that complaining or rebelling openly would only deepen the rifts with his family. Instead, he decided to pursue his dream in quiet determination. He would write not for validation from competitions or publishers, but for himself, honing his craft in the shadows of the mountains. Silence, he understood, was a tool for control. It prevented impulsive words that wounded, allowing space for thoughtful action. No more arguments. He would show his worth through deeds. Energized, he descended the trail with a newfound resolve, the village lights twinkling like stars below. The next morning, Arjun rose before dawn, slipping out while the house slept. He returned to his secluded spot, notebook in hand, and began writing. The silence amplified his focus. Words flowed like the stream below, unhurried and pure. He trained alone every day, not just in writing but in discipline, running the steep paths to build endurance, meditating to sharpen his mind. Back in the village, he took steps to change without fanfare. He helped his father in the fields with quiet efficiency, no longer resenting the work but seeing it as fuel for his stories. When neighbors faced troubles, a sick child, a failing crop, he offered aid discreetly, fetching herbs from the forest, sharing his meager savings for medicine. "No need to thank me," he'd say softly, vanishing before praise could follow. Patience became his ally. He practiced a new skill, submitting stories to smaller outlets, revising endlessly in the quiet hours. Rejections came, but in silence, he absorbed them, learning from each. He helped others quietly too, a young girl dreaming of school whom he tutored in secret, an elder struggling with loneliness, to whom he listened without interruption. Through these acts, Arjun grew. The village noticed subtle shifts. Fields yielded more under his careful tending, community bonds strengthened. His family, sensing his calm, eased their pressures. "You've changed, son," his father admitted one evening, pride flickering in his eyes. Months turned to a year. Arjun's persistence bore fruit. One story, born from his mountain vigils, a tale of a silent guardian watching over a village, caught the eye of a regional publisher. It was accepted for anthology, with a modest advance that allowed him to buy books and even travel to a writer's workshop. He didn't boast. He shared the news quietly over dinner, watching his mother's eyes well with tears. The village celebrated modestly, but Arjun knew the true victory was internal. He had achieved his goal not through noise, but through the quiet power that had reshaped him. In the end, Arjun learned that silence is not weakness, but the forge of true strength. It teaches us to listen. To nature, to ourselves, to others, unveiling paths hidden in the din of daily life. As he sat once more on his ledge, watching the sun rise over Karu, he felt whole. The mountains, eternal and silent, had been his greatest teacher. Remember this. In the quiet spaces between words and worries lies the power to transform your world. Embrace silence and let it guide you to your truest self.